Greetings, ladies and gents. This is a video of me babbling on and on about remakes and remasters, specifically from Sony, as they seem to be the remaster remake group now. You don't really see much from Microsoft or Nintendo, although Nintendo's been shooting out some remakes, remasters here and there, but ports, whatever you want to call it. So I really want to focus today on MediEvil specifically. I want to kind of focus on the Spyro versus MediEvil, that fan base battle. I know I've been seeing that a bit everywhere. So I want to focus on that and maybe go over some of the other remasters, remakes that Sony has done. Maybe, maybe not. But in case you are unaware, Sony has been remaking a lot of their old titles, whether it be first party, third party. You know, they brought back Crash Bandicoot with the Insane Trilogy, with Activision, Wipeout Omega Collection. They remastered HD Fury in 2048 in one package. It's an amazing game. It's probably the best remaster I've played in my it is really on point with everything. It's a really fantastic game. I suggest you go get it. It is amazing. They've remade Shadow of the Colossus, which I heard is getting rave reviews. Parappa the Rapper, and some of the other titles on the PSP and Vita, and of course the new MediEvil remake coming out this year to celebrate its 20th anniversary. So they've done a lot. They've done a lot of remakes and stuff. Basically, I guess what I want to go over first is, I guess, the whole MediEvil Spyro fandom thing. So I've noticed recently that, you know, when MediEvil was announced, this was at PSX 2017, and I remember I wasn't able to watch it. I was at my friend's house, so I wasn't really focused on that. So I just figured I'd wake up, I go to the Reddit, PS4 Reddit, and see something from PSX that was significant. And of course, in my mind, I'm thinking, Spyro, right? That makes sense, Spyro. So when I logged on, I saw MediEvil. And it wasn't, you know, a lot of people I noticed, their reactions were like, why is this not Spyro? This is ridiculous, blah, 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 all that stuff. For me, I was just kind of like, perplexed by it, because I did not expect them to bring back MediEvil. That was just unexpected, because you'd think that they just forgot about it. Kind of like Wipeout in a sense. You think they just forgot about it. Well, Wipeout, they still continued making Wipeout games till the Vita. With MediEvil, they stopped. Well, they stopped at the PSP, but really I kind of want to think they stopped at the PS1, because the remake, the PSP remake, is awful. But so we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, it was just, I remember the Spyro fandom right now is just kind of in, I'm not sure if you would call it denial, worry, but they're concerned that there's been nothing from Spyro yet. And looking at it at PSX 2017, they weren't really going to announce a Spyro remake because it was all focused on Sony. It wasn't focused on any third parties. Everything there was all Sony. So they're not going to announce a Spyro remake there, because that would be an Activision third-party deal. So I do not think they would have announced anything there, even if they had anything. So, like I said, that type of stuff, you have to wait for E3 to see if what Vicarious Visions is doing. Are they doing a Crash Team Racing remake? Are they making a new Crash game? Or is it Spyro? We don't know. Personally, I think they're going to try to ride on the Crash hype. I don't think they're going to go to Spyro. I think they might try to do a Crash Team Racing. They have all the assets they need. They have practically all the character models made, all locations made, basically. Because Crash Team Racing basically took locations from the original trilogy and just brought them there. So a Crash Team Racing remake wouldn't be too out of the ordinary, to be honest. So it's possible that's what that is. I know Sumo Digital is working on a new, they're working on some type of kart racer. It's not Sonic and All-Stars Racing 3, it's not that, so whatever that may be, it's possible. Well, I'm not sure. I mean, people say it's Crash Team Racing, but it's Activision. Sumo Digital is their own entity. I have no idea what they'd be working on, but besides that, I just think it might be a Crash Team Racing remake before it's Spyro. But a lot of people are just up in arms about it. They feel like MediEvil doesn't deserve a remake, Spyro does, and really, you don't have a say in it. I mean, in the end, as much as you want to see a remake of Spyro, you don't really have a say in what Activision does, and I'm pretty sure Activision is focusing on Crash. You know, I'm sure they know Spyro is popular, but with how well the Crash Insane trilogy did, I don't think they're just going to jump ship to Spyro, because now they realize Crash is just this big thing. Crash is back, we have to ride on that, we can't just switch to Spyro. And I could be wrong, I could be entirely wrong, and I kind of want to be wrong, because I do want to see a Spyro remake, remaster, whatever you want to call it, before I see a Crash Team Racing remake. Mostly because Crash Team Racing is a game that relies so much on the physics. If the physics and the feel of the game are wrong in the remake, then the entire game just doesn't work. You know, Crash Nitro Kart was very heavy. It was a very heavy game, and because of it, the way it felt, it didn't feel nearly as good as Crash Team Racing. It didn't feel as kinetic. It felt very heavy. I keep saying heavy because that's what it felt like. And because of that, I think it really faltered. It could have been just as good as Crash Team Racing if it just kept that same flow, but it didn't. Different type of engine. So that's that. And I don't really want to see that happen with Crash Team Racing. I'd rather see a Spyro remake, whether it be the trilogy or not, whatever they want to do, before I see Crash Team Racing. On the other hand, I would like to see a new Crash platformer before I see Crash Team Racing. In the end, I guess Crash Team Racing would be what I wouldn't want to see. That'd be the low list. I'd still be excited for it, of course, because it is Crash Team Racing, but I'd be concerned of how it feels. But anyway, besides the point, the whole MediEvil Spyro debacle. MediEvil was never popular. It wasn't. I mean, MediEvil was a game franchise. It is a franchise. Very similar in the vein to, say, Vector Man and Vector Man 2 on the Sega Genesis. The first game, you know, it came out. It was popular when it came out. It was like one of those games that was like very different, and it had this old charm about it. And it, I mean, I don't know much about its release because I just played MediEvil 1 and 2 recently, this past month. I don't have any nostalgia attachment towards it like I would with Crash or Spyro or a lot of other titles on the PS1, but I really love those games. I do love both games. I think they're very unique, and I love the atmosphere. I love any game that's trying to do a Tim Burton style. It just looks really nice, and that's just one of my favorite styles of art. And the whole Vector Man and Vector Man 2 comparison I was trying to make before is that, you know, you have MediEvil and MediEvil 2, and MediEvil 2 was headed by a different director, and it definitely has a different tone to it, and it is a bit rushed near the end. Very similar to Vector Man 2, actually, so, you know, there is sort of a connection there. But I still think that game is great. I love the Victorian setting. I love how they give you a gun immediately. That's just, I mean, that's just like, here's a gun. Because they don't have crossbows or anything like that. They'll just give you a gun to use. It's just a kooky game, though. I just love how both of the games are. So I do think that them getting a remake is great. Well, right now we just think that the first game's getting a remake, which is a shame because the second game should definitely get a piece of that, because the second game isn't on the PlayStation Store. The first game is, but the second game isn't for some reason. The second game is kind of rare now. To get it complete in the box would cost you around $40 typically. And actually the first MediEvil will go around that price too, maybe like $30, $35. But MediEvil 2 has never been re-released anywhere, unlike MediEvil 1. So I think it should have been, you should release MediEvil 2 in some form for people to get easier, because it's a game I think they should play. I don't think they should miss out on it because there's definitely a lot of things in it. The tone is very different from how it was in MediEvil 1, and some people who may not have liked MediEvil 1's tone may like MediEvil 2's. So there's something for everyone, so I think it would have made more sense to remake both, but it seems to be a remaster, a remake of the first one. Now let's just get into the whole deal. What kind of remaster is this? Is this a full-scale remastering in the same vein as Crash Insane Trilogy, where it's completely new code and it's completely new engine? Or is it a remaster of the PSP version? So this is where things get a bit tricky for me, and where this is just pure speculation on my point here. So I could be incredibly right or incredibly wrong. I'm hoping I'm wrong because that means that everyone's getting a great remake and not just a remaster of the PSP version. But I do firmly believe right now, since we don't have anything to go on, we don't have much information except for the trailer they showed or the teaser they showed at PSX, which is completely provisionary. I don't think it's, or not preliminary, preliminary pronunciations. A preliminary teaser, basically. They just use assets from everywhere to say, yes, we are remaking this. And the teaser itself had it used silhouettes of promotional artwork from MediEvil 2. It used voice acting from Resurrection, which is the PSP remake, and it also used a cutscene from the PSP remake. I think the logo they used was also fan-made. So they clearly made this thing just at the last minute. So it's possible that they just have this thing made at the last minute, whatever. So it may look like it's the PSP remake we're doing, but we just threw things together like that. But there's a few reasons why I think they are indeed remaking the PSP version. If we look back to PSX 2016, they announced a Parappa the Rapper remake, along with Patapon and the like. But what's interesting about, the Parappa the Rapper remake is that it was for the 20th anniversary for 2017, and it was the PSP version. They basically just took the PSP version and up-resed it and brought it to the PS4. And that worked for that type of game because Parappa the Rapper's graphics don't necessarily need an upgrade since they have that 2D style, or, a paper style, I guess you would say. With MediEvil, PSX 2017, they announced a remake of MediEvil for 2018, 20th anniversary. The way it's playing out, it kind of makes it seem like it's a remaster of the PSP version, which is also a remake of the first game. But the problem with that is, with Resurrection, it's a rushed remake. It doesn't have, I believe some levels are missing. They've changed the tone of the game. Stuff about it just doesn't feel right. I think it was made to be more for, I guess you would say, mainstream, a casual audience. They got rid of a lot of things that made the original game so unique. And I'm hoping that's not what they're doing, but what makes me think they are doing that is because we've seen stuff like that happen in the past. You have Wipeout HD, for example, and Wipeout Fury. What those games did was they brought some select tracks from the PSP titles, Wipeout Pure and Wipeout Pulse, and just brought them and put them in HD. And it worked in that scenario because they had the assets from the PSP versions readily available, because they were more readily available than the assets from Wipeout 1 through 3 on the original PlayStation. And they just took those and made them HD. And it works in that scenario because, those tracks are great in the PSP versions. They're great in HD. I don't think that's going to work with Resurrection because it's a port or a remake that not a lot of people like. But it's also something I could see them doing because they have the assets readily available, and now they can just up-res them or do anything, or just try to make it look as good as they can on the PS4. The problem here is, and a lot of people say there's no way they're doing that. With Parappa, it made sense because of how it was designed. They can't do that with MediEvil Resurrection. The thing is, they didn't have anything to show us at the event. They didn't have anything to show us at PSX 2017. What they showed us was basically something that said, yes, this thing is in development. So right now, it's pretty much confirmed that it's in early development of sorts. If they're going for the full-scale remake, like they did with Crash Insane, or even, let's say, Shadow of the Colossus, there's no way they can do the entire MediEvil game in this short time frame. I can't see them doing it this quickly, because obviously this game would get a release sometime, I guess in October. It would make sense to release in October, but with a game like this, they might have some more important title coming out then. They want this game to get more attention, so maybe they'll do a summer release. Even then, that'd be even worse, because there's no way they can get this full-scale remake done by that point. Because with the Crash remasters or remakes, it was a bit easier for them for some areas. For the music, for example, they had access to MIDIs. They just added different sound fonts to them and just made new music that way. MediEvil used all real, like not real audio, you know what I mean, like XA audio. They use streamed audios, and so they basically have to go in and remake all the music. MediEvil, none of the levels in MediEvil like repeat like graphical assets like Crash does. You'll have 3 snow levels, this and that. So MediEvil would be a much more of an undertaking than the Crash Insane, well, at least one remake of Crash. Like, say, if we went up against, let's say, a Crash 1 remake versus a MediEvil 1 remake, MediEvil 1 would definitely be the one that needs more attention. So, because there's a lot more to do. So I just can't see this being a full-scale remake of the first game done this quickly in the same vein as Crash Insane for 2018, because they said it's for the 20th anniversary. They're releasing it this year, most likely. I would assume that's what they're doing. So I just feel like it's the PSP version. That's what I feel. I just can't. I want to be wrong. I want to be wrong. Whenever they're gonna talk more about the game, I'm assuming they're gonna talk more about it soon. I don't think we're gonna have to wait till E3 to hear more about it. I think they may announce stuff about it maybe in March or April, maybe. It's now February. I mean, I'm hoping we hear something about it soon, so anyone who has fears about it being the PSP remake can, you know, either breathe a sigh of relief or be disappointed. We don't know. They say in the Sean Layden in the official blog post says that it is a remake of the original version of the game, but and people think that's just confirmation. I mean, in the end, would they really say this is a remake of the PSP version? Because it doesn't have that same pull as saying this is a remake of the original version from '98, 20 years ago. It doesn't have the same pull of saying this is a remake of the 2006 version of the game. So obviously they're not going to say that, you know, so I'm not sure. What I'm predicting here, if this is indeed a remake of the PSP version, I am predicting this now at PSX 2018, if there is one. At the end, they're going to announce a remaster or remake of Ape Escape for its 20th anniversary, which is in 2019. And it's going to be the PSP version. I can guarantee that. If this is indeed a remake of the PSP version, I'm guaranteeing that's what they're doing. Because it worked for Parappa, it might work for MediEvil, it's going to work for Ape Escape. That's what they're doing. That's the pattern they're doing here. And I don't necessarily blame them for doing this. It's just because, like I said, it works for Parappa. I'm not sure how people like Ape Escape on the Loose for the PSP. I'm not sure what that game got for reviews. I don't really hear much about Ape Escape, really, so I'm not sure. But with MediEvil Resurrection, this is something a lot of MediEvil fans do not want. This is not what they want, and if this is what they deliver, then, well, that's just not good. So, I'm hoping I'm wrong with this. I'm hoping I'm just making this weird speculation, this out-of-nowhere speculation. I hope I'm just going insane. If that's the case, great, because I want it to be just a full on-scale remake. Personally, I want to see the second game too. If you need to delay the game to 2019, fine, I don't care. I would love to see both games remade, but if it really is just the first one, that just leads me to believe it's possible it's the PSP version. If not, I'm still concerned. In the end, though, that's my ramblings about MediEvil. I'm going to go back real quick to the whole Spyro versus MediEvil thing and how kind of a whole thing about Unity. Because why not? We have to have Unity, considering how our world is now. But let's try to bring things together. But I grew up with the Genesis and the PlayStation 1. But, you know, I'm a huge fan of the PlayStation 1. I love the PlayStation 1 catalog. And I just love all the PlayStation 1 games. If you can give me any PS1 game, and I'd probably be happy to play it. Yes, that probably includes Bubsy. I'm very odd, but still, the thing about it is that every game has a story to tell, and I never played MediEvil as a kid. I played Crash and Spyro, and all the things you would expect anyone who owned a PS1 to play, because those were some of their best-selling games. So I never really played MediEvil till last month, where I bought both games, and so there's no nostalgia connected to both of them, and I love the games. I think that when we have stuff like the Spyro fandom and the MediEvil fandom fighting for what one should get a remake, personally, I'm just glad that Sony is remembering these games in some form. You know, like I said, even if it is the remake of the PSP version, they are still remembering these. You would be surprised how many companies just completely forget about their old franchises that did well. Like Sega, you have so many classic games on the Genesis, Saturn, Dreamcast, games that just stood out for those systems that they just don't do anymore. They just stick with primarily Sonic. And Sonic's great when it's done right, which is very rarely, but you want to have some variety. Your brand, the Sega brand right now is basically just Sonic. But with Sony, the brand is so big, you have all these different things, all these different franchises, and I think the Spyro fandom just needs to sit back and think about how this is just opening more doors to people to try this new franchise out. And it's only going to strengthen the PS1 brand. That's what I say PS1 brand. I should say Sony brand. I'm just a huge PS1 fan. I think it's just nice. I mean, patience is a virtue. I do think at some point a Spyro remaster will happen. I don't think it's going to happen soon because, like I said, I think Activision wants to ride on the Crash hype right now. But it's possible they might switch gears and do Spyro. I'm not entirely sure. We're going to see at E3 most likely. But like I said, I don't think it's right for us to say what shouldn't deserve a remake and what does, because in the end, it's not our decision. It's Sony's decision, and in the end, I think it'll be a great way for a lot of people to experience MediEvil for the first time. I think it's a franchise that probably needs a remake the most because not a lot of people know about it. People will go nuts over a Spyro remake. That's because everyone knows about Spyro, but MediEvil is such an unknown franchise in a sense that this is just going to bring more attention to it, and that's only good. That only strengthens the love for the PS1 titles, the PS1 era that's so different and magical compared to stuff afterwards. I mean, the PS2 era was pretty magical too, with all of its different... Well, the PS2 era was just a whole beast in its entirety, but still, in the end, I think we should all just calm down and look at things from a back seat and just kind of just take it as what it is. We're getting a remake of MediEvil. It might be the PSP version, we don't know yet. But I wouldn't put Spyro out right now. I think Spyro is still a possibility, but I would try to come together as one entity and just say, this is a Sony franchise that's coming back. We didn't think it would come back. Very similar to Crash, it's coming back. People are happy about it. Obviously, people want Spyro, but like I said, keep waiting. I'm sure something will come up with Spyro at some point. So, with that being said, I thank you all for listening to what is just me rambling way too damn early in the morning. So, like I said, with that being said, thank you all for listening. I hope you all have a great day or night, depending on where you live, evening, wherever you are. And yeah, thanks again, guys.